Are you ready to practice speaking English? Let's do it. Let's work on our speaking skills with the Fluency story. When I was younger, repeat after me. When I was younger, I spent countless hours. I spent many, many hours in the workshop with my father. A mechanic with hands worn from years of working on cars. So his hands are worn down from the many years he spent working on cars because he was a mechanic. With hands worn from years of working on cars. Okay, let's say all of that. Here we go. When I was younger, I spent countless hours in the workshop with my father, a mechanic with hands worn from many years of working on cars. All right, catch that rhythm? Let's try one more time. When I was younger, I spent countless hours in the workshop with my father, a mechanic with hands worn from years of working on cars. Despite his rough exterior, his eyes always held a gentle kindness. Had a gentle kindness. Let's say it together. Despite his rough exterior, his eyes always held a gentle kindness. Again, despite his rough exterior, his eyes always held a gentle kindness. One more time. Despite his rough exterior, his eyes always held a gentle kindness. One evening, as he wiped the grease from his hands, he casually remarked, Chad, happiness isn't found in having more. It's found in wanting less. Let's go back there. He casually remarked, Chad, happiness isn't found in having more. It's found in wanting less. All right, let's say all that together. Here we go. One evening, as he wiped the grease from his hands, he casually remarked, Chad, happiness isn't found in having more. It's found in wanting less. Okay, one more time. One evening, as he wiped the grease from his hands, he casually remarked, Chad, happiness isn't found in having more. It's found in wanting less. At the time, his words struck me as a riddle. His words struck me. The way I felt the words seemed like a riddle. His words struck me as a riddle. And I couldn't figure out what he meant. At the time, his words struck me as a riddle, and I couldn't figure out what he meant. At the time, his words struck me as a riddle, and I couldn't figure out what he meant. To me, happiness was all about hard work. Happiness was all about hard work. Making a good salary. Making a good salary. Owning a big house. Owning a big house. And perhaps driving a flashy car. And perhaps driving a flashy car. Flashy just means fancy or nice. All right, let's say it together. To me, happiness was all about hard work, making a good salary, owning a big house, and perhaps driving a flashy car. Again. To me, happiness was all about hard work, making a good salary, owning a big house, and perhaps driving a flashy car. My father's simple lifestyle. My father's simple lifestyle seemed so small. Seemed so small. Compared to the dreams I had. Compared to the dreams I had, my father's simple lifestyle seemed so small, period. All right, let's say all that together. Ready? My father's simple lifestyle seemed so small compared to the dreams I had. My father's simple lifestyle seemed so small compared to the dreams I had. As the years rolled by, however, as the years went by, they rolled by, they passed by. As the years rolled by, however, my perspective began to shift. My perspective, the way I see things, began to shift, began to change. As the years rolled by, however, my perspective began to shift. As the years rolled by, however, my perspective began to shift. I watched people with successful careers. I watched people with successful careers and lavish lifestyles. And lavish lifestyles, who always seemed unfulfilled. Who always seemed unfulfilled. There was always something missing from their lives. There was always something missing from their lives. All right, say it together with me. I watched people with successful careers and lavish lifestyles who always seemed unfulfilled. There was always something missing from their lives. Let's do that again. I watched people with successful careers and lavish lifestyles who always seemed unfulfilled. There was always something missing from their lives. In contrast, I encountered those who lived simply. I encountered other people who had a simple life, who lived simply. Yet radiated a sense of peace and contentment. Yet radiated, put out, they radiated a sense of peace and contentment. Yet radiated a sense of peace and contentment. that no amount of money could buy. No amount of money could buy that sense of peace and contentment. In contrast, I encountered those who lived simply, yet radiated a sense of peace and contentment that no amount of money could buy. Again, in contrast, I encountered those who lived simply, yet radiated a sense of peace and contentment that no amount of money could buy. That's when I started to wonder. What if my father had been right all along? What if my father had been right all along? That's when I started to wonder, what if my father had been right all along? Again, that's when I started to wonder, what if my father had been right all along? What if true happiness doesn't come from the endless chase for more, but from embracing the idea of wanting less? What if true happiness doesn't come from the endless chase for more, but from embracing the idea of wanting less? What if true happiness doesn't come from the endless chase for more, but from embracing the idea of wanting less? One last time. What if true happiness doesn't come from the endless chase for more, but from embracing the idea of wanting less? What if abundance really isn't about accumulating possessions, but about needing very little to feel complete? What if abundance really isn't about accumulating possessions? You try. But about needing very little to feel complete? Let's say it all together. What if abundance really isn't about accumulating possessions, but about needing very little to feel complete? What if abundance really isn't about accumulating possessions, but about needing very little to feel complete? All right. That's our wise words for today. Now we're going to say it nonstop. Try to shadow me. Say it with me. Let's say it together. Let me take a breath. Here we go. When I was younger, I spent countless hours in the workshop with my father, a mechanic with hands worn from years on working on cars. Despite his rough exterior, his eyes always held a gentle kindness. One evening, as he wiped the grease from his hands, he casually remarked, "Chad, happiness isn't found in having more. It's found in wanting less." At the time, his words struck me as a riddle, and I couldn't figure out what he meant. To me, happiness was all about hard work, making a good salary, owning a big house, and perhaps driving a flashy car. My father's simple lifestyle seemed so small compared to the dreams I had. As the years rolled by, however, my perspective began to shift. I watched people with successful careers and lavish lifestyles who always seemed unfulfilled. There was always something missing from their lives. In contrast, I encountered those who lived simply, yet radiated a sense of peace and contentment that no amount of money could buy. That's when I started to wonder, what if my father had been right all along? What if true happiness doesn't come from the endless chase for more, but from embracing the idea of wanting less? What if abundance really isn't about accumulating possessions, but about needing very little to feel complete? Boom. Good workout. Wise words from my father. Not really. It's a fictional story. Sorry to disappoint. All right, keep moving forward one step at a time, and I'll see you in the next step.